Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, February the 20th, 2025. It is 3 p.m. We are in the council chambers at 19 Parnell Street in Greater Madawaska. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Resolution.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Greater Madawaska calls to order the February 20th, 2025 regular council meeting at 3 p.m.
We have a mover. Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. All in favor? Thank you. So carried. Please stand for O Canada. Please be seated. As we gather in chambers, I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We'd also like to thank all generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Thank you, miigwech. Thank you. I will note that Councillor Levesque is unable to attend today. Thank you. Section 4, approval of agenda. Resolution, please.
That the agenda of the council meeting of February 20th, 2025 be approved as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second. Councillor Tripp. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Section 5, approval of minutes. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the following minutes are approved by council. On January 16th, 2025, special council. January 16th, 2025, regular council.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Popke. All in favor? Thank you. Section 5.2, acceptance of minutes.
Be it resolved that the following minutes are accepted by council. December 3rd, 2024, Recreation and Culture Committee. December 4th, 2024, Canada Day Committee.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, second. Councillor Popke. We've all had opportunities to review these. Are there any discussion items on either one? No? All in favor? That is carried, so thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? There's none seen. Thank you. Move on to my mayor's report. For Thursday, the 20th of February, 2025. Since our last regular council meeting, I have represented the township in 10 meetings, 3 community events, and 2 media interviews. All members of council attended the annual Roma Conference, which is the Rural Ontario Municipality Associations. This conference was held in Toronto from June 18th to 21st. CAO Renee Mask and myself presented 2 delegations, as previously mentioned on the township website. While attending a community event, I had the opportunity to speak with Lori Raddick of Madawaska, who brought to my attention a program that Loyalist Township is called the Red Envelope under their emergency preparedness. Residents make medical history on their history, their meds, and contact persons information and place them in a red envelope affixed to their fridge for first responders to review. I've advised CAO Renee Mask of this, who is looking into the program to see if it has any merits for us. I'd like to take special thank you to all who took place and all the organizers for the Calabogie Winter Carnival Week. It was well attended. I had the opportunity to spend 14 hours with our firefighter crew on Saturday cooking meals, and it was quite enjoyable. I would like to bring to your attention the dedication and observation of one of our staff members. Our Public Works Supervisor, Steve Inwood, was heading to work to deal with that heavy snowfall we had early Monday morning. Approximately 4 a.m., he drove by what looked to be an abandoned vehicle. However, while driving by it, he noticed that hazard lights were flashing. Steve went back and investigated. Steve assisted a senior who had been stuck in the car for some 4 hours prior to Steve's arrival. The vehicle was near empty, and the driver was extremely scared and concerned as he had no connectivity to call for any help. Steve provided him with gas and used chains to pull him out of the snow, and the driver was able to continue on his way. It should be noted that this took place in a location that was not heavily populated or well traveled, especially at 4 a.m. in a severe snowstorm. On behalf of the Township of Greater Madawaska, I thank you, Steve, for your attentiveness, your commitment, and dedication to keeping this community safe. Thank you, sir. Job well done. Thank you. This concludes my mayor's report. We will now move on to Public Works Department. 8.1, resolution, please.
The council approved the sole source purchase of a new wood mulcher head for excavator to Empire Attachments for $58,902.75, including net HSD less trade-in of $10,000 for a total cost of $48,902.75.
Thank you. Do we have a mover, please? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Tripp. I will ask for background this time on this one, Steve, as I neglected you last time when at our last regular council meeting. So background, please.
So the township already has a 2010 wood chipper head now. It was on our original excavator we had before this one we purchased. So it was on it for upwards of, I'd say 5 or 6 years, and then put on this machine as well. We've already incurred $14,000 worth of costs in it before, one time fixing the pump and some belts and stuff on it. And now, a couple of weeks ago, the pumps went on it again. You cannot get a kit to rebuild this pump anymore. You have to purchase a whole new pump and attachments to put it on, which is upwards of $15,000. And with talking with the mechanic, there's some other parts on it that are looking like this is going to be another upwards of $10,000 to $15,000 on top of it, and it's on the asset management plan to be replaced in 2029. So it doesn't really, to me, make sense to spend $25,000 or $30,000 on a piece of an attachment to replace it in 4 years with a new one, when a new one's $48,000. So that's why we're asking for to replace it now today.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? Councillor Thompson.
And I just want to make sure I'm thinking of the right unit. I agree, it makes sense. Is that the one when you're clearing the sides of the road that it kind of chews up branches?
Well,
What do you use it for?
we had two of them. There was one on a tractor and then there's one on the excavator for bigger, like it does bigger trees and like you can cut them and come down and it mulches them and everything on the ground. So
Okay,
that's the way, it's the one on the excavator that we're replacing.
okay, because I thought we already had a head replacement or something last year or something. So, or maybe I'm mixed up. I could be
Yeah, no,
mixed
I
up.
don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tripp.
Thank you. I think we talked last year about a grinder that we used at the dump. I remember some conversation about that, but it makes perfect sense. I'm assuming we have health in our capital works reserve for the expenditure. And if it's in our asset management plan, we're just really moving it forward a few years. So it's a good initiative. It's a good idea. I just wanted to confirm we have the money in the reserve for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Popke.
I was just going to ask how many hours roughly is on this thing between pump changes?
Oh, we probably put 7,000 hours on that Volvo excavator before, and it had 14,000 on it when we got it, or got rid of it. And we put it on this John Deere, and there's 12,000 hours on it now from 3,000. So it's not been on that excavator that whole time, but it's like usually from construction season ends till the spring. That's usually what's on it. It's out brushing all the time, so there's a lot of hours.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Just one, Steve, and I'm fully in favor of this. I just want to know, is there any reclaimable parts from the old part or not?
No, because we're going to actually trade it in for the purchase of the new one because they'll give us the $10,000 for the used head
Perfect.
on it.
All right, thank you. If there are no other questions from council, all in favor? That is carried. We'll move on to 8.2. Resolution, please.
That council approves bylaw 10-2025 being a bylaw to stop up and sell a part of a road allowance and to acquire and assume land for a public highway.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Thompson. Background, please.
So this is from the work we'd done last year on Madawaska Road where we traded the property that was on Madawaska Road with the Pennex for their driveway that was on the road allowance off of Pennock Lane. They gave us the property we needed on the Madawaska Road and we gave them the entranceway that they've been using for years already, but now it's just legally, that section will be in their name.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, Councillor Thompson?
And I just want to explain for a lot of people who might be watching today or aren't familiar with the heritage of the area. Back in the day, although there were concession roads that England thought would work here, none of them actually are feasible to use. So what the settlers did, they went from one house to the other farm, anyhow. So we ended up with these roads. They're all forced roads. And some of them got straightened, some of them got diverted. And we have so many instances like this. Yeah. where, it's not bad planning, it's lack of planning completely that worked back then, but we've got a lot of adjustments to do to get these things going, and this is a good example of why we're doing it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? There are none seen. All in favor? That is carried. We'll move on to 8.3, 2025 County of Renfrew Capital Roads Project. This is an information item only. And who will be speaking to this? Background, information, please.
So in 2025, they're supposedly starting in March, I think they said of this year, the end of March, up on County Road 71 by Camel Chute. They're going to be blasting the rock cut out wider and expanding the road behind the guardrails, because the guardrails are falling over because of the water and stuff. So they're going to be doing all that and doing some paving as well up there. They're also going to be doing the bridge on Ferguson Lake Road. It's supposed to be upgraded from a 1-lane bridge to a 2-lane bridge. We also had discussions, me and Renee, with them about the asset management plan, about the actual intersection here at Mill Street and Lanark Road where this bad corner is. And at the time they're going to, it's not scheduled for quite a while, 2028, but at least discussions started that they're going to look into changing all these things and getting us costs on what it might cost and stuff like that. So, and exploring possibilities for adding parking spaces and stuff like that also through the village here as well.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Thompson.
Hi, these are all great things. I'm just curious about what the process is. Is this a routine thing that anytime they get to the, pre-engineering phase that they include the townships that they're working with? Or is this something that we are going to them with to say, if you're going to change, please
Yeah, so
these.
we've been in talks with them about other stuff, and they've mentioned to me, because I've been to some of the meetings up at the county, and they've told us, if there's some changes your township wants, if they go ahead and tell us 2 or 3 years in advance, like you can't call us the year before because they're working 2 or 3 years ahead. So as long as we get in touch and we want to changes, but some of the costs may be incurred by the township, because if it's a change the township wants, but the county doesn't necessarily think it needs to, we may end up having to pay for some of this, but at least they give us a number and the township can decide if they want to work with it or not.
Thank you. Supplemental?
I also want to say the stretch that you're talking about, I call it the causeway, that you see people fishing off this narrow where the gravel is, the guardrails are falling over. So this is really good to have it wider. Plus, if anyone's going by on bicycles, or I don't know how wide it's going to be, but at least it'll be a lot safer. So I'm really, really glad that's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Popke?
That bridge on Ferguson Lake Road, is that not township responsibility, as it's a township road?
No, so all the bridges and culverts over 2 meters in width are the county of Renfrew, even if they're on a municipal road. So like Coulterman Road in off flat, it has the bridge, the county owns those. Highland Creek Bridge, a bunch of culverts around, they all own them.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion items? Okay, thank you. This was an information item. Thank you. We'll now move on to section 9.1, fire protection grant information item.
So the fire chief is not here today to speak to it, but this memo was to provide council with an update regarding a successful grant for acquiring fire protection equipment. So the fire chief was successful in receiving $16,460 to purchase an extractor washing machine, essentially, for the Calabogie Hall, as well as 2 new bunker gear dryers one for each hall. This purchase is directly contributing to the health and safety of our firefighters. And they're used to remove hazardous contaminants from their equipment, which may pose risks can expose them to cancer-causing substances. So he's indicated here that the grant will continue into the next 2 years, so there's more opportunity, but this is the beginning of it.
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you for the information item. We'll now move on to 10.1, bylaw 14-2025, zoning amendment to lift hold symbol. Stephenson. Resolution, please.
That council approve bylaw 14/2025, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 28/2024 as amended to lift the holding symbol applied to the lands located in part Lot 3, Concession 5 in the geographic township of Griffith.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. Background, please.
Thank you. This applies to a piece of property that had some lot creation on it many years ago, I think around 2004, and a zoning amendment was put in place as a condition of the severance to put a holding provision on, subject to completing a hydrogeology study before the parcel could be developed. The property owner has now completed that study, and we've reviewed it and have no concerns, so the application and the bylaw before you is to lift the holding provision so that development can proceed on the lot. So we're satisfied the requirements of the hold have been satisfied, and it's timely to remove it so that a house can be built.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Thompson.
I'm curious about when do all severances need hydrogeological reports? Like how is it decided they'll need one?
So I'm not sure what the rationale was at that time, but today, I think if lots are created that are under 1 hectare, I think the official plan requires a hydrogeology study. This property is 1.9 acres, so it is under 2.5 acres, under a hectare. That might have been the rationale at the time, I'm not sure. But yeah, today, if we're creating lots under 1 hectare, we'd be looking, the official plan would trigger a hydrogeology study.
Thank you. Supplemental?
Yes, please. I'm curious about when the township will put in that condition that whoever owns the property will have to sign something saying it's not our fault if it turns out there isn't enough water or the quality isn't, well, good enough. It seems sometimes it's automatic and other times it's not required. And I'm just wondering how that works.
Not exactly sure what you mean. I have seen severance decisions that have an awareness clause, I guess. A hydrogeology study today is typically implemented through a development agreement as a condition of severance. So if somebody creates a new lot, does a hydrogeology study, a supplemental condition is a development agreement that includes the recommendations from the hydrogeology study and some awareness that the municipality is not, responsible for water. I'm not sure that that happens when property is sold between property owners. So does that answer your question, or perhaps you can rephrase and I can help further?
Well, there is a subdivision that that there are times where I've seen that it's put in place. How can I word this?
Well, we've got to bring it back onto the topic of this bylaw.
I am talking about
This bylaw.
this bylaw. Why is there not that same provision in this that to absolve ourselves from responsibility if it turns out there isn't enough
So
water, good quality water?
I'm just, perhaps that might be something that the planner can research, get back to you on. But in regards to this is in regards to lifting the holding on it.
Yes, definitely the hold should be lifted as there is plenty of water. So yeah, I guess my question is not related directly to this, so I get what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, all in favor? That is carried, thank you. We'll move on to 10.2, bylaw 16-2025 and bylaw 17-2025, development agreement, Rebecca Stewart and David Stewart. Resolution, please.
That council approve bylaw 16, 2025 and bylaw 17, 2025 to enter into a separate development agreements with Rebecca Stewart and David Stewart in accordance with section 5312 and 5126 of the Planning Act to satisfy conditions of consent approval.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second. Councillor Thompson. Background, please.
Thank you. This report is related to 3 consent applications that were filed by David Stewart. 2 of those applications created new lots, and the 3rd created an extension to a private road. And one of the requirements is that the applicant enter into a development agreement to implement the safety and the design requirements for that private road. Since the severances were granted, the parcel that has the part of the private road crossing it was transferred from David Stewart to Rebecca Stewart. So in order to finalize this, we actually need 2 development agreements since there are 2 separate property owners affected. So what you have is 2 development agreements, one with David Stewart and one with Rebecca Stewart to implement the private road requirements and ensure emergency vehicle access.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? There are none seen. All in favor? So carried. Bylaw, or sorry, 10.3, bylaw 18-2025, Peaks Village Agreement. Resolution, please.
That council approve bylaw 18, 2025, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Calabogie Peaks ULC and the Corporation of the Township of Greater Madawaska.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, seconded. Councillor Popke. A background, please.
So this is the agreement that would authorize the township to be able to take on the securities at Peaks Village. It's a big step within the development there. And so proceeding with this agreement, it would now allow the township to be able to sell the properties to fund the costs that's already been incurred, which we are at $122,000, and then fund costs that would be required to bring the road to standards and add drainage and complete the subdivision to standard where we could assume the road.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Tripp.
Thank you. So congratulations to the staff to pull this together. It's a huge accomplishment to get us to this point. So we have 122 that we've expensed. We have question 1A, an idea of what's going to be required to bring it to completion. And of the 8 lots that we have, do we have an idea of what we think we may receive in revenue?
We will come back with more details. At this point, we're signing the agreement. Once the agreement's complete, we will come back to council with a more of a plan on how we'll proceed with the sale of the lands, estimated costs through real estate, and a plan on how it's going to be completed over the next few years.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Popke.
Of these 8 lots, are you going to plan on selling all of them at once, or are you going to hold some back in reserve? Because like the value of land is never going to go down. So if you...
The intent is to pay ourselves back, which is the $122,000. And then after that, the plan may take a few years. There's time. There's works that need to be completed there. We're still going through the expropriation. So yeah, the intent is not to sell them all and then keep the money in the bank. The intent is to sell as we need and fund the project.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No, thank you. All my questions have been answered. All in favor? That is carried. We'll move on to 10.4, housekeeping amenities to the zoning bylaw. Resolution, please.
That council authorize staff to proceed with a township-initiated zoning bylaw amendment to update some definitions and policies through a housekeeping amendment.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Popke. Background, please.
Thank you. So although the zoning bylaw was just updated in 2024, a couple of deficiencies, errors have kind of arisen over the last couple of months, and so staff are recommending that the township initiate a zoning amendment to kind of tidy these things up. There's 5, as you will see in the report. Some of them are directly relevant to existing projects. For example, the inconsistency, the confusion in the definition of lot frontage is relevant to high country estates. If you can picture, one of those has a private road that runs across the 6 or 7 lots, and the definition of road frontage in the zoning bylaw doesn't quite work with how that subdivision private road is proposed to be registered and built out. So all of these are kind of directly related to current projects, including the implementation of the short-term accommodation bylaw, which we hope to do March 1st, so that the seasonal dwellings and the secondary dwelling units and the short-term accommodation definitions and things, just proposing that we tidy those up. So it would follow the same process as a zoning amendment. We would advertise a public meeting, bring a bylaw with proposed wording on these 5 areas, and follow the same process as a zoning amendment initiated by the public.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? There are none seen. All in favor? So carried. We will now move on to 10.5, Calabogie Secondary Plan. Resolution, please.
That council directs staff to proceed with the work plan for the Calabogie Secondary Plan project attached herein, including preparing and circulating an RFP for the consulting team to manage the project.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, second by Councillor Thompson. Background, please.
So this is follow-up from our discussion in January and previous discussion in the fall. The report you have this afternoon includes a proposed work plan to work through the secondary plan project for the village of Calabogie. I anticipate that will be 18 to 24 months based on my discussions with other planners, planning consultants that have done this kind of project. And so we've proposed that in 5 phases to be refined, I would say, once a consultant team is chosen. So that's the work plan. The RFP document is in the works, and hope with council's support of the project today to issue that in the near future and get underway. What's included in this report is some commentary response to some of the questions that were raised by council when we discussed this project back in January. I don't know if you want me to speak to those. You've had a chance to read them, so happy to answer any questions, I suppose, if you have any in follow-up from there.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion? Councillor Thompson.
First of all, I think this is very exciting. It's something we definitely are looking forward to doing. And I know budget-wise, we have to be careful that we can't do the whole township all at once. But we are doing the main one, the biggest one where the most pressure is on growth. It's fantastic. I do have a concern, though, it was my question about why have settlement boundaries if we're allowed to put as many houses as we want outside of those boundaries. So I think, rather than say this is the definitive answer, your answer made sense. I'm not saying there shouldn't be growth in the rural areas. Of course there should be, because they come with the possibility of enterprise on every lot. There are things you can do there, but residential only is very restricted, and it doesn't contribute to community the way villages do. So it's just something I think we should not leave the way it is. I think it's something we need to discuss later. I think we still need to work on that. Imagine if the village of Calabogie had only residential. There was no Charbonneau store, there was no anything. It wouldn't be a community. So when we're allowing large subdivisions, exurban sprawl outside without any concern about community, then it's something we need to work on. Thanks. Anyhow, wonderful that we're getting started. It's just there's that little nugget we still have to work on. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? No? All in favor? That is carried. We'll now move on to 11, Finance and Administration Department. 11.1, new position, Program Coordinator. Resolution, please.
The council approved the addition of a program coordinator 12-month contract position.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Tripp. Background, please.
So most recently, we were successful with receiving the Seniors Active Living Center Program grant. This funding application, which we submitted back in last fall, included a portion of a part-time position to provide administrative services to programming in the community. With the success of the grant and the works that is required, we would need that support piece for the program. And the proposal before you today is to request that we trial a 12-month contract position for a full-time position with the remaining amount of, it works out to be about 30% of the position being funded by the township for general programming. So we'd have the position be more of a 70% seniors active living, and then the remainder being recreation, which is part of our strategic plan, and programming. We do not have a programming position at the township or anything that operates any recreation. We have amazing community groups, and this position would serve as a connecting link between all of these groups and be able to provide support and as well as look into opportunities to bring in more programming in the township.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? Councillor Thompson, you're getting frequent flyer points today.
Frequent flyer points. I think we're all really, really excited to get this. It's, we have, as you know, we have incredible community groups and all around the township. It's amazing how many things are going on. But now we'll have staff that can and a lot of it is seniors oriented as well, but staff to coordinate that. It's going to be a game changer for what we can deliver, and to have most of the salary be paid for through a grant is wonderful. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments or anything? No, and I think I'm just going to add on to what you said. There is not so much coordinate as support as well. So thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No, all in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. We'll move on to section 11.2, tied right in with this, Senior Active Living Center, update and budget information item.
So what we have here is the actual budget that was submitted to the province was initially due on February 6th, and they allowed us an extra week to February 13th. Within the time frame, I mean, we're talking about weeks of receiving confirmation that we're successful with the grant. We were able to meet with 17 community groups, not-for-profit organizations, and health services providers and businesses within the township and outside of the township to be able to develop this budget. Within that, I was able to really discuss with all these community groups, how can we support, because we're not trying to take over the programming they already offer. Most of the conversation was around the fact that they could use more of that technical piece of, or not technical, digital piece of create posters for us, market for us. Those are the pieces that are missing. So this is where we're looking to really support this group. I submitted the budget to include all thoughts provided. The main pieces are bringing in the educational programming, lunch and learn, so we'd be funding lunches, and somebody to come in and teach on fraud prevention, cell phone technology, those types of things. We have promoting health programs, social connect programs, explore programs, which is busing to one-day excursions outside the township, And then we're looking at other recreational programming partnerships with local businesses to do aquafit, paddleboard, kayak. So there's a lot of exciting things that we're going to get from this, not only supporting what we have now, but enhancing it. And then we have these amazing groups. I mean, the groups all actually operate their own recreational teams at this point, which we're really lucky to have in this township. Because you have just said we don't have recreation here. So it'll be great to jump in there and be there to support the groups. The actual grant submission was more in the range of $93,000. So what that looks like is they consider all of the in-kind work. So when you're talking about these groups allowing us to use the hall without cost to be able to offer programming. So, the DACA Center allows their residents down that area to walk the hall. That's considered as an in-kind per hour. So all the way across it turns out to be where there's a lot of in-kind community groups provide a lot of in-kind services that we don't necessarily recognize when we think about the programming. They're not getting any funds for that. And then, so the conversation is a bit, they kind of overlap these two reports, is that we have a recreation and culture across the community, and it'll be, they're looking for where we can have maybe a steering committee where a person from each of these groups connects together and meets here with the program coordinator and talks about what next year looks like. So right now we had to submit this. Over the next year, we have the opportunity to really finesse what we're doing with our budgeting and how we're going to develop this out program into being something that really serves our whole community.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns from council? Councillor Tripp.
Just building on what Councillor Thompson said about how exciting this is in terms of the last agenda item in this one, I think this can be pivotal for us. We're getting, in essence, core funding to support the foundational process of building this model. And we can leverage down the road funds through foundations. We have a product that is now marketable. I think this is just the start of something that's going to be quite significant for the township. The partners are coming together. We've got some core support. This individual can be that anchor to pull the groups together and to support the groups, and then using that, reach out to other foundations we've applied to in the past with a model that's actually working. So I think this is a start of something we can really build on. So well done.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concern, discussion? None. I would just like to express my appreciation for all the staff that worked on this. And this was an extremely tight deadline. And I'm going to point out our CAO, Renee, on this, that she worked a lot of time, a lot of hours, sent me emails when she should be at home not working, but she continued to work through it all to get us this. And I can't express enough on your dedication to this, and as in everything you do every day. But this was a job extremely well done and extremely tedious, and you made it seem easy, so thank you. And we will now move on to, honeymoon's over. We're now moving on to bylaw 11.3, bylaw 13-2025, user fees and charges. Thank you. Resolution, please.
The council repeal bylaw 25-2024 and approve bylaw 13-2025, user fees and charges, being a bylaw to establish a general tariff of fees and charges for the township of Greater Madawaska.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. Background, please.
So annually, we complete a review of the user fee and charges bylaw to ensure that the fees meet legislative requirements and strategic plans of sustainability objectives and align within our budget, and that we also remain comparable with similar municipalities. Staff proposed the updated bylaw that was attached to the report with changes for review and consideration. A summary of the changes would be, in addition, a fee for the concurrent consent application in the same land holding a parkland dedication fees as stipulated by the parkland dedication bylaw recently passed, amendment to the deposit for the draft plan of subdivision or condominium, amendment to the outdoor rink rental fee, and an addition of rink board advertising rates. So if anybody has any questions, then.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Popke.
I got a question not really related to those charges or fees, but I was reading through it. What is lifting of 1 foot reserves? Could you explain that to me? That was on page 111 of those user fees and stuff.
Sorry, which section? Which section?
It was
Schedule.
it was in the plan and services.
Tracy, our planner, please.
So usually we use 1 foot reserves in plans of subdivision. They're a strip of land that gets conveyed from the developer to the municipality, but not dedicated as road, basically blocks access to a road until certain things happen. So I can't think of a specific example in this township, but historically I've seen those used. Well, some municipalities use them to trigger a hydrogeology study before somebody can build. They put a reserve in place. So there's a process a legal process really, to lift the reserve, transfer it back to the property owner so that the lot isn't blocked with that strip of land and it now has frontage on a road. So it's a legal process to kind of block development until certain things happen and then remove it when those criteria are met.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No, thank you very much. All in favor? That is carried. We'll now move on to 11.4, municipal grant application, Denby Griffiths Lions Club. Resolution, please.
The council approved the municipal grant application for the Denby Griffith Lions Club requesting the financial contribution of $1,000 for their annual car show set for August 23rd, 2025.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Thompson. And do we have any background?
So last year, council adopted the bylaw 27-2024 to establish a municipal grant policy. And as we're all aware, this policy was created to establish eligibility requirements, expectations, as well as an application and review process and providing grant, financial or in-kind assistance to community organizations so that we ensure that the grant awarding process is consistent, transparent, and fair. Recently, we received a municipal grant application from the Denby Griffith Lions Club for their annual car show to be held August 23rd, 2025. The grant application has been attached to this report for your reference. The request is for a financial contribution of $1,000 to fund the rental of a bouncy castle to use on the day of the event. Staff have completed the application. Staff have reviewed the completed application and confirmed that it does meet eligibility and financial requirements of this policy. Therefore, today recommendation is that council approve the municipal grant application for the Denby Griffith Lions Club. The $1,000 funding will be funded by the 2025 operating budget under Rec Community Grants. And if approved, the total financial and in-kind grants approved for the year would total $3,450.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? There are none seen. I will say I try and get up to the event each year, and the kids just love the bouncy castle. It's not adult size, so I have not partaked, but the children love it, and the event is wonderful. It draws people from Quebec, Southern Ontario, Western Ontario as well, and from the United States. So it's a great attraction and draw to our area. So I think it's well-deserved. Seeing that, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We will now move on to section 11.5, bylaw 11-2025, authorization for 2025 capital project debentures. Resolution, please.
That council approve bylaw 11, 2025, which is a bylaw to authorize the submission of an application to Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation for the borrowing of $1,888,094 in the form of a 20-year debenture for the various projects, equipment, including Madawaska Road, a fire pumper tanker, and a 3/4-ton truck for the fire department.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Tripp. Background, please.
So this report is based on the 2025 capital budget that council recently approved for the capital projects of Madawaska, a fire pumper truck, and the debenture is approximately $1,888,094. The attached bylaw is just to provide staff with direction that we can apply for the loan. And we're projecting an interest rate of 3.68 over a 20-year period. The annual debt payment is estimated to be approximately $163,000. That will be funded by taxation and development charge revenue. At this stage, you're approving the preceding application, and a bylaw will be presented to council later this year to close the debenture with set rates and payment terms.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? There are none seen. All in favor? That is so carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to 11.6, bylaw 12-2025, debenture agreement for 2024 capital projects. Resolution, please.
That council approve bylaw 12, 2025, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation for a 10-year debenture in the amount of $453,484.78. And furthermore, council directs the mayor and treasurer deputy CEO to sign the agreement.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Popke. Background, please.
So last year, after the 2024 budget was approved, we completed an application for a debenture, and now this is the closing of the debenture. The works have been completed. We were under budget. So our original loan request was for $508,556, and this time it's coming in at $453,484. We have locked an interest rate, a 10-year serial debenture at 3.68%, and the debenture terms are biannually. Therefore, our first payment will be processed in September.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns from council? There are none seen. All in favor? That is carried. We'll now move on to section 12, committees and boards. 12.1, the library board. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Well, this is a really exciting time for Greater Madawaska. The library has been, since I don't know how many years ago, they rebranded to be Library and Learning Center. And they have been putting on every year, I'll just give a bit of what's going on. It's huge. Financial management workshops, gardening with native plants, eating healthy on a budget, break and fake, identifying reputable information sources. There could be photography classes, mahjong, Scrabble. They work with the kids at the school. It's a list that's almost too long. Like, check the website, and anyone who's listening, please do that. But what's really exciting is before they rebranded, actually before this council came on board, there was pressure to get rid of the library because we know the library is a really, really important part of any community, and they're really hard to start up. So the pressure about closing it was that it costs a lot of money, and people in the west end of the township weren't getting the benefit for their tax dollars. But the difficulty is there's only enough staff to run one library, and we've got a huge, huge area to cover. With the SALC, with the new recreation person, we get an extra staff person that can extend some of these programs. All these programs, I said, are happening right now in Calabogie only. There is some book lending, et cetera, going back and forth, but the rest of the program isn't happening. So this is one thing that's exciting, that we can now work with community groups and the library with the staff member to extend these programs there. But also we're working with the Recreation Committee, which is now a committee for all of the township, where it used to be a committee in each area, all working independently, but hard work, hard work. So it's really exciting that we can get library programming there with the help of the Recreation and Culture Committee. That's my report. Just good things are happening all around through collaboration. So it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns from council? No, we like when good things are happening. Very good. Thank you for the information. We'll move on to 13.1, alternatives to annual burning of brush and waste transfer station. Motion brought forward by Councillor Thompson. Resolution, please.
The council directs staff to investigate ecologically and economically efficient alternatives to the current practice of burning brush at the township's municipal waste transfer stations and offer alternatives to burning for 2026 and investigate what kind of investment can be made to provide long-term solutions to turn all sizes of wood and brush waste into marketable products as part of the Strategic Goal 4.3 2025 Key Initiative Waste Management Review.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson? Second by Councillor Tripp. Background, please.
As the township works to increase energy efficiency to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our built environment, it is our responsibility to search for ways to reduce emissions in all of our operations, as well as to create programs to help our residents reduce or reuse waste and reduce carbon emissions. The township of Greater Madawaska is in a heavily forested area that continues to feel the effects of climate change in the form of floods, tornadoes, a derecho storm, and wildfires. Extreme weather events due to climate change have damaged local forests and homes, and the clearing of trees for the creation of new building lots in our growing township has contributed to the drastic increase in the amount of downed, large caliber trees people don't know what to do with, as well as smaller caliber brush that's being deposited in our waste transfer stations. As well, increased construction is producing more wood waste that should be diverted from the waste stream. At the September 21st, 2003 regular council meeting, the Facilities and Environment Manager prepared a report with the pros and cons of chipping and removal of brush from transfer stations. However, environmental impacts were not factored into the equation. Burning brush costs less, slightly less, not as much as they thought at first, less monetarily than chipping, but costs much more when it comes to the contribution to the effects and damage caused by climate change. So the discussion is, in 2024, a contractor was hired to chip and remove the brush at a cost of $15,500, paid through available funds. The contractor kept the chipped wood, which they could sell if they wished. Wood products are valuable resources that could be used to heat homes, be used as mulch, or be sold to provide biofuels for industrial digesters, etc. We need to find a way to use all wood waste as a resource, rather than burning it or plowing it under to our detriment, without any benefit. Turning wood waste into marketable products could offset costs and divert waste from the landfill in a circular economy, while decreasing corporate greenhouse gas emissions. This would also set a good example for residents to think differently about waste of all kind. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? There are none seen. Councillor Popke.
So I agree, like the wood and the brush does take up a lot of space in our landfill sites, but in terms of like burning, a lot of that wood chips, for example, from 2024, when they go up to those processing plants to get turned into pellets and whatnot, that's basically what they do up there. They get burnt and compressed, and it's almost just as much smoke, if you will. coming off of the after results as it is to burn the brush. So it's harder.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
What I'm talking about is turning a waste into a marketable product. All that wood could be in someone's home heating their house. Wood, if you just leave it sit there, it is a carbon sink, the wood. So if it just rots over 30 years, all of that greenhouse gas will go into the atmosphere. It's going to go there. So the idea is to use that efficiently and offset the costs. It costs to burn, it costs as far as greenhouse gas emissions. So it is something we should look into to find a way to use that more efficiently, more cost effectively, and at the same time, it will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. You're saying, so if you let that wood waste, the same amount of emissions go up over 30 years, but in those 30 years, other trees have grown and cycled that. So that's the normal way. When you're burning it all at once, the wood resources, the trees can't keep up. So I'm just saying, let's do it better. Thanks.
Thank you. Yep.
The only thing to keep in mind, though, is like when they come in with these chippers to chip this brush, they're bringing a machine in. It's the size of a tractor trailer itself with its own diesel engine on it. Like he's probably burning anywhere between 400 to 500 liters of diesel fuel to chip that brush. Then they have to have an excavator there that's burning 200 or 300 liters of diesel fuel to. Then they're burning fuel to truck this material at the same thing. So to save on emissions, I honestly think it's better what we're doing when we're only spending probably, like we did that this year, one guy, one excavator, 2 days at Norway Lake, one guy, 2 days up in Griffith. So you're looking at maybe $2,500 we spent to get rid of this brush. So to spend another $10,000 on chipping plus the emissions you're burning with the diesel fuel, I think should be noted as well. It's another concern.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
I'm not saying I have the answers. I'm saying it would be good to look into the options to see if there's a better way than burning. What's the cost of buying something that will do it? What are the options? What are the markets? Just look into it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So with the chipping of the brush for last year, for the amount we only had, to bring the machine in, the guy's minimum is $10,000 a day per site, so it'll be $20,000. The chips that he chips, he says they're not worth anything because the brush we get is small brush. So he said it just goes in the landfill when he takes it away. It doesn't get reused. It's too expensive to draw to Toronto. So in that case, there's no money in it for us to do the chips. And as far as valuable wood at the waste sites, like nobody brings in their hardwoods, saw logs, that's all used up by the locals. So that stuff's getting reused anyway. We get all the garbage nobody wants. So there's no end result at the end of that. So we end up with it because no one else wants it. So then we distinguish that the best way we possibly can is by burning it. And we've changed our burning practices. We don't burn the yard waste anymore, the leaves. With the wood, we separate it and we let it compost and compact, and then we haul it to the waste site, which takes away from the extra smoke. Like Steve said, it took 2 days to burn it. With the leaves, it could take 3 or 4 days because it keeps all the moisture in there. So I feel we have a pretty good practice on the emissions, and when we're keeping track of that, and we're trying to help with not the smoke emissions. And I tried the grinding one year. It is very expensive, and like Steve said, the amount of fuel they use to chip that amount of brush, it hardly doesn't make any sense environmentally. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. I think we're doing it fairly efficiently as right now, and as things change in the future, if we end up getting bigger, like another windstorm or a big tornado, we'll do what we did the last couple of years. We brought the machine in because it was too much to burn at that point. Thank you. Any other, Councillor Thompson?
I've been told by the waste transfer site attendant that they only allow, 3-inch caliber branches. So if the problem is we're not allowing bigger pieces or lumber, I just think it needs to be looked into.
We do allow larger than 3 inches, but at a charge for construction waste. So anything that's over 3 inches is charged for construction waste. Due to our ECA with the ministry, we're only allowed to accept 3-inch brush, and anything above that is considered construction waste. And normally what we do, if it's a big load of logs or stumps, they're hauled to the landfill, which would be Mount St. Patrick or Black Donald. And then most times they won't be burned, they'll just be buried.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the resolution that's on the table is to have it part of our key management or waste management review. So this is all encompassing with waste management. So maybe if you could just reread the resolution to me, please, just so I have clarity around it.
The council directs staff to investigate ecologically and economically efficient alternatives to the current practice of burning brush at the township's municipal waste transfer stations and offer alternatives to burning for 2026, and investigate what kind of investments can be made to provide long-term solutions to turn all sizes of wood and brush waste into marketable products as part of a strategic goal 4.3 2025 key initiative waste management review.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions, there are none seen. All in favor to have this part of the waste management review? That did not pass. Okay. Oh, sorry, I should say opposed. Okay, did not pass. Okay. 13.2, review and update zones in hamlets, villages. Motion brought forward by Councillor Thompson. Resolution, please.
The council approved the addition of a new objective to the strategic initiatives action plan under goal 2.0 growth management for the review and update of zones in the hamlets, villages when the zoning bylaw is reviewed.
Thank you. Do we have a mover, Councillor Thompson? Since you brought this forward, do we have a seconder, Councillor Tripp? Resolution, sorry, I should go background on this one.
Okay, background. The Renfrew County official plan, as adopted by the Township of Greater Madawaska, no longer includes any settlement areas known as villages or hamlets other than the village community of Calabogie. Despite that, the settlements that include Griffith, Madawachin, Mount St. Patrick, Dacre, Berryville, Ashtad, Camel Chute, and possibly more, remain important villages that support the surrounding rural and farm areas with vital commerce, recreational, social, and cultural spaces, as they have since early settlement days. This residential and hamlet use is not properly protected in our comprehensive zoning bylaw. Currently, many properties within our hamlets are zoned rural. This zoning allows uses such as forestry, farming, logging hauler, mineral exploration, contractor's yard or shop, hunting and fishing camp, and home industry. When you read the definitions of those permitted uses, it's easy to see that none of those uses are compatible within the hamlet designation. In order to maintain the economical and social viability of our hamlets, we need to change the zoning within them from rural, that allows those uses, to zoning such as residential and hamlet commercial, that allows land use that is appropriate for village life. For example, the definition of a farm includes the grazing, breeding, raising, boarding, or training of livestock and horses, dairying, beekeeping, fish farming, any other operation that is normal farming practice, and includes on-farm dwelling as well as barns, sheds, and other accessory structures. The definition of home industry includes carpentry, electrical, woodworking, window framing, welding, plumbing, machine or auto repair shop, service shop, blacksmith, or a storage building for school buses, boats, or snowmobiles. These uses are not allowed within the village community of Calabogie and should not be allowed in any of our hamlets. Residential and hamlet commercial zoning doesn't include any uses that have the potential to create conflicts within the villages. Although the township cannot revise the Renfrew County official plan to include the rural hamlets, we do have control over zoning within them. Council missed the opportunity to investigate where to make changes to zoning within our hamlets when we accepted the comprehensive zoning bylaw in 2024. That process started before the current term of council and was not, change page, and council was not fully aware of the issue with zoning in our hamlets at that time. As well, the township didn't have a full-time planner, so no direction was given to the consultant to engage the public about zoning in villages outside of Calabogie. This bylaw will provide direction to staff to add an objective to 2.0 growth management in Greater Madawaska's strategic plan for the review and update of zones in the hamlets villages when the zoning bylaw is reviewed. In the meantime, staff will concentrate their efforts on creating a secondary plan for the village of Calabogie, which is great, as recommended in the Greater Madawaska Growth Readiness Action Plan from 2022 that states the growth and development of Calabogie should be a priority since it's already an established hub. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns from council? So we have just, oh, Councillor Popke, I keep missing your hand today.
It's okay. I just wanted to clarify these hamlets, like Mount St. Patrick, Ashdad, you're trying to get them to get rid of those rural things or to keep them?
Councillor Thompson?
Actually, would you prefer to talk about the zoning, the way it is right now? Some villages have rural and others have residential zoning, or should I?
Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt. I think the question was the purpose of what
Okay.
so I think it's
Okay,
directed
yeah, all right.
directly at you.
Okay, so the right now the village of Madawaska is rural only. The zoning, any of the properties are all rural. So somebody could buy a property right in downtown Madawaska and put a logging hauler there. But Griffith has residential properties where it's more appropriate for a village. So just when it's being reviewed, we need to consult with the public to find out where, if they still want their villages to be villages. I think it's something we should put into the next time we do a review, to ask those questions of the public, of whether they want the zoning to be changed so that it'll protect their villages from being, well, so it'll be more of a village life than what could happen if it's kept rural. Did I explain it to your satisfaction?
Councillor Popke?
If you change the rural setting to residential, now you're going to be hurting all those people that are in that area that want to farm or do whatever. It's like buying property around an airport and complaining about the noise. You know what I mean? It's just because you want to build or keep it as like a village, you're still going to have those occupations and whatnot around you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
We're not talking about huge zones here. We're talking about, where we've got a community hall already and where we've got, in some cases, a church or a general store, or, where there already are villages. I'm not talking about like where you and I live, where, of course, we want all those activities to still take place there. And it wouldn't change how anyone's using their land currently. If they've got a house there and they've got a home business, on the internet or whatever, and they don't have cows in their yard, then they might say, yeah, I don't want cows next door. This this close to where I live, you know? So it's just something, a consideration. To me, it's to protect the villages more so than it is to restrict anything. And it will be done with public consultation.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? There are none seen, so I see the key word in here is for review. And that will be at the next time zoning bylaws take place, which I believe is a 5-year period. Is that correct? So a review of the possibility of the zones of hamlets and villages within that review of the bylaw. Is that my interpretation correctly? CAO, any further?
Debating and making an adjustment just to make sure we're clear on that. Maybe it's during the 5-year review.
Okay.
Are you okay with that adjustment?
That was a friendly amendment then, that's accepted? I just say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Now it's official. Okay, so if you could, we'll give you time to write it out.
The council approved the addition of a new objective to the strategic initiatives action plan under goal 2.0 growth management for the review and update of zones in the hamlets villages during the next zoning bylaw 5-year review.
Thank you, and that was a friendly amendment, so we can now vote on it. All in favor? That has carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to 13.3, Child Welfare Agencies, motion brought forward by myself. Resolution, please. I'm quite willing to let you read through this, but.
Whereas the City of Woodstock, Ontario has submitted correspondence advocating for support regarding the Children's Aid Society and other child welfare agencies throughout Ontario and the essential services it provides to children, youth, and families, and whereas the Township of Greater Madawaska recognizes the critical role of the Children's Aid Society and other child welfare agencies throughout Ontario in ensuring that the safety and well-being of vulnerable individuals within our communities. And whereas the Township of Greater Madawaska is supported by Family and Child Services of Renfrew County, who ensures the safety and well-being of vulnerable individuals within our community. And whereas it is in the best interest of municipalities to support initiatives that promote the protection and care of children and families in need. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Greater Madawaska hereby supports the request from the City of Woodstock, Ontario, urging the province to prioritize and support the financial needs of these vital agencies, and further that the Mayor and Clerk be directed to prepare a letter of support in alignment with the request made by the City of Woodstock and send it to the Premier of Ontario and the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, and further that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to the City of Woodstock.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Moved by myself, second by Councillor Tripp. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the background on this? The resolution itself speaks to it. I think it's an integral service that so many families rely on in this day and age. And the funding model and the funding of those agencies needs to be looked at. And that's why I've put this forward as a letter of support for the City of Woodstock. I'm open to any questions if there are any. There are none seen. I would ask all in favor. That is unanimous, so carried, and I thank you. We'll now move on to section 14, closed section, 14.1. Enter into closed session. Resolution, please.
So the council meeting of February 20th, 2025, enter in closed session at 4:16 p.m. pursuant to section 293(2) of the Municipal Act regarding 1, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, A, vacant land community use.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, second. Councillor Popke, all in favor to move into closed? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you. We will be in closed. Welcome back. 15.1, move to open, resolution, please.
That the council meeting of February 20th, 2025 move back into open session at 5 p.m.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Poppy, second by Councillor Thompson. All in favor to move to open? That is so carried. 16.1, rise and report. Move to rise and report. Resolution, please.
The council reports the following as a result of closed meeting item. 1, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. A, vacant land community use. Proceed as directed.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, second by Councillor Popke. All in favor? Thank you. Section 17, bylaws, 17.1, bylaw approval, resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw, 15, 2025 confirmatory, be deemed read a first, second, and final time and passed by council at the regular council meeting held February 20th, 2025.
Okay, do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. All in favor? So carried. Moving on to 18, adjournment, 18.1, motion to adjourn, resolution, please.
That the regular council meeting of February 20th, 2025 be adjourned at 5:01 p.m.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. All in favor to adjourn? That is so carried. We are adjourned. Drive safely, everybody. I see we have some snowfall out there.